Hey folks, welcome back to the Meta Abuse Podcast. I'm your host, Battle Mode, and this week it's going to be really fun because we've got three other guests. I've got Sean, as always, and then I've got DasTactic and Richard Yorke. Say hello, guys.
G'day, everyone.
Here we go.
Hello.
Hope everyone is gearing up for the Christmas break and having the best of seasons, etc., etc.
Absolutely. And that's partly why we've got together. We were actually going to do a Christmas episode, but I think it's a little bit early, and I think we're going to get Drexy in on this one as well. So we're going to do another one fairly soon where we try and get, some more of us together. Also, Lucid's not about this week. So, but I managed to drag Daz and Richard out of retirement after joining the first couple of podcasts and then sort of being notably absent ever since. So it's good to have you guys back.
Oh, look, I'm always happy to jump in. I always expect that you'll just contact me if you need me to do something or for me to come in. So
it's just too many games to play at the moment. That's all. I think. To be honest, it's nice to be back. And talk about all the latest. There's so much to talk about. To be honest with you, what's come out this year.
Absolutely, and that's probably what we're going to be talking about today. Is really, I'm just curious to know what it is that you guys have been playing, and we're just going to have a chat about games basically because these are often our most popular episodes. At least I noticed that when we were doing Explorminate, when we just sort of get together and just have a casual discussion about games, people seem to really, really vibe with that. With Meta Abuse, we're trying to do a little bit of a mix between, a focus on sort of game mechanics and game industry stuff, and then, the sort of more casual episodes as well. So we try and mix it up a little bit because different people like different things, and so it's always difficult to please everybody, but we try. So anyway. Yeah, this year has been a bit of in terms of strategy and 4X games for me, has been a bit of a washout. And I think that's very much, that's been a personal thing really, that I've been really busy at work this year. Work got spectacularly busy. And so I got really burned out on strategy games probably about 18 months ago. And so I haven't really played a whole lot of strategy games until quite recently. When I've I'll talk about the games that I've been playing later on, but I'm interested to hear what you guys have been up to. So, Daz, I'm going to start with you. What have you been playing recently? And is there anything notable that's kind of come into your gaming sphere that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, you could even just cut it down to like November, December. Like honestly, there's so much stuff coming out, or that actually has come out and is coming out. It's been an incredible little time actually of just different bits and pieces. I mean, the things I'm really, really sort of just can't stop playing is Age of Wonders 4, of course, with the new the Blood Throne DLC, which I'm absolutely loving. So that's one. Dwarf Fortress with the Siege update, incredible. Like that's just amazing. That's completely revolutionised an already great game. Elemental Reforged. I'm just waiting for the next sort of update on that one. It's been a couple of weeks now. Sort of every day when I wake up, I come down and actually look to see if it's been updated because I don't want to start recording again until I get the next update. Then you got other games like Cleared Hot. Thoroughly enjoying that one, the helicopter game. Not my type of game usually, but I'm loving it. What else is there?
That's the one that's based on Desert Strike, isn't it?
Yeah.
I had Desert Strike on the Sega Mega Drive back in the 90s. And then there was a couple of sequels. I think it was Jungle Strike and Urban Strike, or the Strike series as they're known. But Desert Strike particularly, that one was kind of controversial when it came out because it came out not long after the sort of outbreak of the Gulf War. I want to say about 92, 93, and it was a massive hit. So to see Cleared Hot pop up on the horizon, and it's a Microprose game, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, they're kicking some goals. I've got to say, Microprose have just really got so many great little games that they're bringing out. Actually, and also I've got to say, like there's like this. They're probably by the time this is out, Slytherin will actually have had their big event, which is coming up this week, where they're just going to be going through all of their coming games. And there's some really good games that they've got on the horizon. I mean, Richard and I have been lucky enough to be playing some of those, which under sort of embargoes and stuff, which is really exciting. So I can't wait to be able to sort of show those games, but also. Hooded Horse, getting a shitload of more games on the way. Like they've actually got heaps of stuff coming. You've got Stardock with so many different things. I didn't even realise that the latest DLC for Gal Civ 4 launched this week. I only just found out today. So I've got that installed now, but I just haven't actually started playing it. So there's so much to play and get into. Distant Worlds 2 as well. There's got a big update coming this coming week as well. So there's just so many great games. Just literally within these current weeks. Like not even going. Like I hate getting to the stage of the year where there's so much going on, and then you've got to do your best game of the year, and you've got to then think, what the hell did I play 2 months ago? Because I just don't know.
It's funny, Daz, because like I say, I've barely played any strategy games this year at all, and I was asked to contribute towards an article for Explorminate, talking about like the top 5 games of the year, and I wasn't the only one, but like I had to say to them, sorry guys, I can't actually think of any 4X game that's been released this year that isn't Civ that or that I actually played, because I just haven't really.
Here's your list: battle mode, Age of Wonders 4. Dwarf Fortress.
I played that a bit.
Distant Worlds. Elemental. And Gal Civ. There you go.
Okay, well, look, I'm not allowed to talk about Stardock stuff at Explorminate. Like they were like, look, if you're going to do a top 5 list, you're not allowed to put any Stardock games on because obviously self-promotion. I was like, yeah, I get that. But so the only games that I've actually played are Elemental, Gal Civ, and Sins of a Solar Empire, because I had to play them loads at work. And but the thing is, I've actually. To be perfectly transparent, the games that I've played most for pleasure this year have been Gal Civ, Sins of Solar Empire 2, and Elemental. Because I like those games. I always liked Fallen Enchantress Legendary Heroes. I thought it was a good game, and I think Elemental's building on that. Sins 2's absolutely brilliant, and it's just had a really decent update, which has put a load more depth into the game with diplomacy. So it's kind of made the game. It's changed the economic system actually, but the overall effect of the game is that it's just a little bit more nuanced now, which I think the game probably needed. And then Gal Civ as well. Gal Civ's a bit of a funny one, because I think, for me at least, I think Gal Civ has hit a point where there's been so much content in it that, like over the last few years, and so many updates, that it's come on a long way since even this Steam release. I mean, and that was like the second version of Gal Civ 4, because that was the Supernova thing. So we'll probably talk about that a little bit later on, but I feel like Gal Civ, we've just learned that Gal Civ's actually going to get another 2 years of DLCs. So there's an expansion pack that just got released, and if you buy this, you get a bunch of DLCs, some of which are going to be scheduled to come out at the end of 2027. Or in 2027. So it looks like Gal Civ's getting at least 2 years more support, which is pretty cool. Like Age of Wonders 4, I've played actually. I've been playing the new DLC, and I actually think that. Everyone knows I'm critical about Age of Wonders 4. I still struggle to finish games of it, actually. I just can't quite get into it like everyone else can.
Unfortunately, battle mode, that's an intelligence thing.
No, it's something in the water up here, mate. It makes us allergic to bad games. But, No, I actually think that new DLC is really nicely done. I think, like, even Lucid agreed, because we both had a look at it, and we were like, you can tell that they're actually trying to differentiate the DLC content quite a lot now. I've seen some people complain about the power creep in Age of Wonders 4, but this is standard.
What do you mean by power creep?
They add more stuff that gets stronger and stronger. This was an issue with Total War Warhammer, for example, where every time they added someone, they kind of, in order to make them stand out, they had a tendency to make them more powerful and give them more abilities. And I feel like the DLCs with I don't know Age of Wonders 4 so well, but I definitely felt that blood tome and stuff that is come out with this one, or the demonic stuff or the vampire stuff. It actually feels like it feels pretty OP, and I think there's been some complaints about that. You don't think so?
No, because it is if you play on like a sunless world where the vampires actually do have advantages, but you don't have to play it. You can just play randomly, and so that actually it means that the vampires only really get to sort of thrive in their own environment. And so in that sense, no, it's I think that the balance, for me, every DLC adds so much more immersion. The balance, I'm always so surprised at how good they keep it, like with everything that comes through, and just the way you can extend the game is just phenomenal. Like, it's just, it really is. It's the best game ever made. Like, let's face it. Like, I think we can all agree on that.
I don't agree, but look, I'm going to turn to Richard in a minute, and then Sean as well, because I want to ask those guys what they've been playing. But just to address this briefly, like, I've spoken about Age of Wonders 4 to death. I'm not going to talk about it too much more on meta reviews. I think people are kind of sick of hearing me talk about it now. What I did want to say is, I do think that the recent DLC, at least,
that's where you should play it.
Again, it's made with love. You can tell Triumph are really going to town. The new mechanics and stuff, and like especially the vibe. They've got the vampire vibe really, really nice in it. But there was a big argument over Explorminate the other day, and it's been spilled out over from Triumph's Discord and from their comments section on YouTube. And there is a lot of people in the community at the moment really unhappy with the balance in Age of Wonders 4 right now. It's a big problem for a lot of people. And it's not just multiplayer people, as you might expect. Like, the multiplayer community are really complaining because I think it's tier 3 or tier 4 stuff? There's some imbalance in it and they're not happy with it. And there's some no-brainer choices that everybody's using. That's just going to happen in multiplayer games, unfortunately, especially when the game is balanced around single player. But also, there's a lot of people saying that these issues affect single player too. So I was quite surprised to hear, Daz, you think it's balanced, because that doesn't seem to be the consensus.
It just blows my mind every single time they bring anything else out. And look, I think it's a shit game as a multiplayer game. It's way too big. It takes way too long. The whole focus of this is the tactical battles, in my opinion. Really, like when you got a complex tactical battle, it's so rewarding to play it out, and you just can't afford to do that in multiplayer. So it's not a multiplayer game. And look, and if they're not really catering for multiplayer, I applaud that. Like, it's like, just keep it immersive for single player. That's where the market is. The multiplayer market is a loud sort of loud minority, basically. In most games, actually, some are built for multiplayer, but in this case, it's an immersive fantasy game, and if it's got a bit of unbalance, then so be it. I think some of the best games aren't balanced. I mean, you look at Master of Magic, look at Distant Worlds.
Yeah, a lot of the best games, single player wise, I think that balance is the hobgoblin of single player games, honestly. I think if you've got a game that's overly balanced, as if you are trying to make the game fair for multiplayer, it makes boring single player content, because you want some OP stuff in single player games. And part of the reason is because if you've got certain factions that are stronger, some are weaker, it gives the player challenges, that you can, like, an experienced player can play with a weaker faction. People don't like artificial difficulty modifiers in single player games. And so having factions that are weaker, some that are stronger, to allow players an organic way of creating their own challenge, what we call organic difficulty, I think that's really important. And that does not work that well with multiplayer games. The Dominions community can just about manage it, but I think most other games have to be really, really overbalanced. So yeah, I thought that was an interesting thing to hear. Now, there will be people in our discussion who've probably been following the Age of Wonders kind of drama recently a little bit more closely, who are going to probably chime in and tell us what it's all about. But yeah, I think also the guys at Explorminate have been talking about this quite a lot, so you're likely to hear something on their podcast soon. But it's funny that Age of Wonders just takes up so much headspace. It's lived rent-free in my head for a couple of years now.
It's the best game ever made, Ben. That's why everyone talks about it. Like, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, it's definitely a no-brainer. I agree. Richard, I need to turn to you, man. Like, what have you been playing recently? Have you got any exciting games that you've been getting into?
Well, probably talk about what Daz talked about. Micropose has been dropping out some absolute bangers recently, and also partnering up with the guys who did Fertile Crescent. I don't know if you're familiar with that game at all.
Yes, I've just got a copy of it.
Yeah, do you know what? Actually, I played it a long time ago, and then it came out they were partnering with the developers or the publishers, and literally, I revisited it, and actually, it's if you're a fan of, like, I think the word is like OG Command and Conquer style combat and unit generation, and there is a bit. I mean, if whoever plays it, if they understand the mechanics of the game, it's all about food and slight resource management. Yeah, and it's an absolute banger. And I find myself, I've come back to it several times this week, thinking, oh wow, this is actually quite fun. And I can imagine, to be honest with you, the multiplayer is going to be quite competitive, but just as a friendly banter between people, it could be quite actually fun. So that's definitely one that I've played recently that I thought, oh, it's actually really, really enjoyable. But also, probably talk about what Dad spoke about, the upcoming stuff from Slytherin. I can't remember. Battle Plan is a one to look out for. Absolutely. You know what? There's nothing I love more than drawing on a battlefield and then a battlefield just happening and things happening on a battlefield, like drawing a circle and your troops will go to try and take that circle of some description. So there's two notable things. But also, one thing I've played recently is I've revisited combat missions. And I know you guys who play combat missions knows how much of a grognard you have to be. Of course, the British in the Rhine DLC is one of the recent DLCs.
Okay.
And it's so painful to play if you've played through the campaigns. But yeah, there's a couple of games there that I've I've been hitting quite hard recently, and like probably so to speak. Even though I hate to say this, I'm a turn-based player, and I struggle at RTS games. But Broken Arrow, literally every time I play that, I really enjoy it. Even though I struggle with the micromanagement of that game. I know some guys, people have different opinions on like these modern RTSs and stuff and how quick they are, but I actually really, really enjoy it.
Do you play with active pause on the on Broken Arrow? Because I love it if I've got with the active pause. I just wish that they would fix up the single player side of things with Broken Arrow. Like it's been so long that they've just been fixing multiplayer, and that annoys me that we still can't save in game. And we can't actually have...
Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah, that's a big one. Also, the Fertile Crescent, going all the way back to that doesn't have active pause, and I really wish that had active pause. So that I think is a problem for the Fertile Crescent for single player. But again, Broken Arrow, I think I agree with you, is a great game. They just need to get like the saves, the saves and the AI being able to sort of join the battle on a single player side of things.
It's got a long road, but I think they've definitely got from what the other press releases have done. There's a long road for it, but I think they've definitely addressed some of the issues, especially the cheating stuff, because apparently there's a lot of cheating stuff online. Yeah. But like I said, if anyone's interested, Fertile Crescent from Micropose is really good. Like Daz just said, the Cleared Hot game, if you're looking for a retro helicopter game, it is just like, it's actually quite good and quite fun to play. And this is probably, I want to say thank you if David ever hears this. The stuff they are knocking out is absolutely amazing. There's they've knocked out so many good titles, and I think that there's like a CMO game they released not long ago. I can't remember what it's called now. Let me just interrupt myself. Strategos, if any of you guys, Ben or Frag or Daz has heard of that. Absolutely, as a Field of Glory player, and I love Field of Glory, and I'll play it to the day I die. I got onto the alpha of that and absolutely loved it. And it is such a game if you are a Field of Glory fan, if you're a mix of a Field of Glory plus Total War fan.
That's Strategos. So was it? Is that the one? Yeah, that comes out That comes out in January, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be such a good hit. And I can only say kudos to the devs. And like I said, I sit in their Discord and I do just sit there watching what they're saying. And I find it ever so fascinating. And it's such a nice ebb and flow game. And it's hard to, sometimes games go, you get in combat and you're going to lose. And there's sometimes I've played this game where I've engaged and I thought, you know what, my odds aren't great, I'm losing. And then suddenly, it just, by luck or skill, I suppose, it just ends up in my favour. But that is one, I think that's my 2026 favourite, I think I would say, when it comes out. Even, Strategos.
Yeah, I've not played that one, but the way you describe it, like that's exactly how I feel about Field of Glory. It's one of those games where you never know quite who's won, because the battles can go either way, and obviously that's a turn-based game, but like, I've had multiplayer games where I've been on top and I've been like, right, I've got this one in the bag, I've got this guy beat, and then I'll just get a couple of unlucky rolls, and then the battle will start turning against me.
The old unlucky roll excuse, eh?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, Field of Glory is consistent. It's incredibly consistent. So, if you're a good player, you will win.
If I can just interrupt if I can interrupt with that one, because I've played against Richard a fair few times with Field of Glory, and Richard's he's the best player of Field of Glory that I know. And Richard,
I'm not. I promise. And Richard, a keen amateur. I should.
No. Seriously, you are. You're very, very good at it. And the thing that makes you good at it, and it's the same thing I think with the way why Lucid is good at Dominions and stuff like that, is you have an instinctive understanding, even though there's a bit of RNG in it, there's not that much, but you can look at terrain and instinctively know that terrain is going to help me if X happens and stuff like that. Whereas somebody that might be a good player, not a great player, won't actually see that instinctively. And I think that Field of Glory really rewards people who can actually see beyond what you're looking at and actually be able to think, if I get pushed back, I'm going to be heading up a hill, that's going to give me an advantage. Or if I get pushed down a hill, that's going to then cause a complete collapse. And I've noticed that a lot.
Oh, that's what he's doing. That's what that little bugger's doing when he's playing, is it? Because I can't beat Richard at Field of Glory, man.
No, you can't.
I'm good at strategy games.
He sees he's playing like 4D chess with it. And it's like seriously, it's actually
chariots.
Yeah. But I love it. I love watching, because you don't it's again one of those sort of things where it becomes instinctive. That's what I've sort of noticed when Richard plays it.
I'd agree. I'd agree with that. That's it. There is a lot of instinctive things, but like I said, there's so many better players. There really is, and I gotta say, even after like thousands of hours on that game, I still consider myself a keen amateur.
Yeah, but you're a good keen amateur. That's the thing, man. Like I've watched you play other people as well, and it's kind of scary how like efficiently you take people to bits, how you take an army to bits. I'm gonna turn to Sean because Sean's not introduced himself yet. Sean, man, how you doing? And what have you been playing recently, dude? Because I'd be interested to hear on your thoughts on Broken Arrow, because Richard brought that one up, and I know Daz has played it too. I'm the only person here who hasn't played that yet, I think. So I'd be interested to get a bit of a discussion going on that game if you fancy it.
No, I haven't actually played it either. I have it on my wish list and I've been keeping an eye on it, but I haven't played it yet. Okay. Mainly, I do have a couple of friends who bought it, and they were talking about, because they play a bit of multiplayer, and they're like, the multiplayer's not really there yet with all the cheating and some issues. And I was looking at things, there's complaints about the campaign saves and that sort of thing, because nowadays I don't really do much in the way of multiplayer. I'm mainly playing it for the single player component, and it sort of gives the impression that it's not really, it's still kind of unfinished. And looking at the roadmap, there's stuff like save games and features that, to be honest, I'd kind of expect to be in there from day dot that are coming over the next year. So I'm probably just going to hold off and then wait until they're there. Save games should have been there when it launched. That's just silly. So I'll probably hold off and have a look at it when it's had all that stuff done next year sometime.
See, my understanding was I was talking to Daz, and Daz seemed to think that was a conscious decision, wasn't it, to not include saves?
There's been a few games that have come out in recent times where they've actually made some really strange decisions, and that was actually because I brought that up because I was early testing certain things with that game. And that was one of the feedback I gave, was like, why is there no save game? And the answer that came back was because the games don't last more than 15 to 20 minutes. But that's not true if you've got active pause. For me, a Broken Arrow game lasts maybe 2 hours. So I can't sit down for 2 hours and then get interrupted an hour in and have to go off and do something and close the game down and then have lost all that progression. Look, Broken Arrow is not alone in that sense. There's a lot of games that actually are now erring on the side. Some of them don't matter that much. Like Cleared Hot doesn't have it, for example. That's another one where you can't save during your mission. You have to start the mission again. But there's no active pause in that, so you just go ahead and just do it. I think that the Fertile Crescent doesn't do it either, as two examples. But there's a lot of games that don't do it. But on a game where you do have active pause, you do have a single-player option to it, really should have save games.
This actually highlights that there are different styles of RTS games, I think, and some are more leaning into the strategy side of the real-time strategy, and others are more like action games, right? They're like strategy-focused action games. So, on one end of the spectrum, you might have something like StarCraft, which would be what I would call a very, very high skill level, action-based RTS, where it's very much about actions per minute. And the game's not played paused. You have to do many things at once. So, for example, there's another guy that we've got on the podcast called Mark. Mark mostly covers arcade games, action games, that kind of thing. Which is why you guys don't really kind of mix with him on the podcast necessarily, because he doesn't really play strategy games, right? But he plays StarCraft because StarCraft is very much, I see it as a really high pressure action game. And then on the other side of things, you've got games that where they do integrate pause into it more because they're considered to be more on the strategic side. So I would consider something like the Total War games on that sort of side, where they are action games and they are RTS, classic RTS, at least in terms of the battles. But because they have this, what Daz is calling active pause, the ability to pause it, to be able to select targets for units to move, to make movement orders and then unpause it and it all plays out, very much like the old Black Isle style RPGs, like the original Baldur's Gate games. So that's how I play Total War. In fact, I've been playing Total War Warhammer this week, and I'm terrible for it. Like, I will always hit pause and just, because I tend to like playing with large armies of lots of different units, and for me that's fun. I like to plan out my moves, but when I play with my friends, like occasionally I play multiplayer and stuff. Obviously, you can't do that, so the game completely changes its character because you've got to be. It's completely different.
Does it make it harder? Does it make it harder when you think about the active pause? Like I said, for me, a game that I can't pause and then look at the situation and go, how am I going to approach this? Especially Terminator Dark Fate. That's one I would pause and go, oh my word, I've got to deal with these targets. You know, I think pauses are, I don't know, maybe because I'm thinking from an older gentleman, I'm thinking, wow, I need more time to react to this than somebody else who's...
I don't know, look, because I've heard people say this, and I mean, I've heard Daz say this, and now Daz is allowed to say this because he is really old. But like, I think as the older you get, then, you know, people start noticing their reaction times going down. And I would argue that if you're getting old, the last thing you want to do is slow down, right? You need to keep going. So I think that doing stuff that is more cognitively challenging is actually really good for you. But it's more whether that's fun for you, you know, as you sort of get to that point.
Yeah, the fun factor is what devs forget about. They forget that people want to play it the way they want to play it. And look, there is actually a game, Starship Troopers is a game that doesn't have active pause. That one is just, you have to keep on playing it all the way through. But that one doesn't bother me as much. And whereas so many of the other ones, like I actually really appreciate that Broken Arrow has got the active pause in it because I get so much more enjoyment out of that game by playing it that way. And it does make it easier to actually play a game when you've got active pause because you can stop, give orders, you know, and actually consider things, which is interesting. But Starship Troopers is a great game. And, you know, Richard, I know that you've played a bit of that as well, I think. And that one doesn't have active pause, and you don't miss. You know, I mean, you do miss it when you first start playing it. I didn't play it for so long because of the lack of active pause, but in reality, it was. It's a really cool game where you just sort of set up almost like a tower defense in the areas you don't want to be attacked, and then you just go off and just use a small group to do your attacking.
Yeah, I think that, you know, like I say, there's different kinds of games, and I think, you know, if you've got like that Westwood style, you know, like Dune 2 or Command and Conquer. Or like Dawn of War, something like that. Those games, they're not going to be played active pause. They're designed to be action games, right? And then you've got this bleed over with strategy games where there are real-time strategy games that have the pause component, and they're so different in terms of gameplay because, for a start, player attention is a resource in classic RTS style games where you don't have the active pause, right? So when your attention is a resource, like it is in something like StarCraft, where in StarCraft it's great. There's no automation of things like resource management or anything. So you've got to be constantly like moving over with hotkeys to the other side of the map to be moving your resource management units around. Like even attacking is a really difficult thing to do in StarCraft. Like to be good at competitive level StarCraft, you've got to practice for like hundreds of hours. Sometimes you're spending dozens of hours just practicing working with your resource units. And I've watched, like, I tried to get into it for a bit, and man, that is a difficult game to get into if you are a casual player, right? You know, to be able to play multiplayer to a level where you won't just get eliminated within about 10 minutes, right? By somebody who has been playing for thousands of hours. So it's so different from, you know, playing a multiplayer game of something that's got active pause. So I think Richard brought up Combat Mission, right? Combat Mission's an interesting game because, again, it's got two styles of play, but they are both technically turn-based. One is real-time. Let me think of how this works.
Yeah, there's a WeGo system and a real-time system, sort of. We're pausable real-time.
That's right. Exactly.
I literally, that game needs to be played on iron difficulty, the hardest setting, and turn-based. Literally, that's the only way you need that.
You mean the WeGo system? Like WeGo 1 minute played out?
That's right. It's 1 minute chunks, yeah.
Can I just make an observation? Battlemate, you actually asked Sean what he was playing. You asked him specifically about Broken Arrow. He said he hasn't played it, and ever since then we've been talking about everything else.
Oh, sorry, man. Yeah, sorry, Sean. Let's turn to you, sir. What have you been playing recently, mate? Apart from Truck Driving Simulator.
Yeah. That's all right. I'm still waking up anyway. So, yeah, I've been playing actually quite a bit of American Truck Sim. Like, there's a friend of mine who's looking at getting his truck license, and he wanted to learn stuff about truck driving, and of course I am a truck driver, and it's interesting how you can, well, I mean, obviously it's a sim, so it's supposed to be realistic, but I broke out the wheel and the gear shift and the pedals, and I've been sort of teaching him how to drive a truck virtually over a game, which is kind of wild. And
Sean, just clock off, man. You know, I know you like your job. You're going to end up losing your missus if you just don't ever come home from work. He gets off the truck and then he gets off the rig and then gets into the office and then gets into the rig again. And he's, you know, like kids are coming in like, Daddy, can we hang out? And he's like, not now, kid, I'm driving.
Yeah. Hey, at least I know if I ever want to move to a different country, I'll be able to get a job over there because driving on the other side of the road using left-hand drive. But so that's been pretty fun. We got some mods and just been mucking around with that. What else? The big ones I've been playing. Actually, I was playing ZEPHON again recently because they brought out the DLC with the new factions.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember what they're called. It's like the Count and
how you finding that?
Platinum Scion or something. It's not too bad. They still haven't really changed a hell of a lot in the things that I would like to see changed. I know they've put out a request about roadmap for the next year and what people would like to see, and part of what was on there is stuff that I know we're talking with Drexy on and off about this a while ago, and there's stuff on there that we'd both like to see with regards to like narrative structure changes and adding in new kinds of events and making it so at the moment, because you've got the Anchorite and ZEPHON, like your two big players, and if you wipe one of them off the map, they're not dead. They'll actually, it says they're regrouping, and after a while, they'll actually come back with another city, and they'll, like they're not permadead. And what they're talking about now is introducing a sort of narrative element where if you wipe one of the players off, it'll cause some other kind of event to happen. But like we don't know what that is yet because it's all sort of just vague at the moment. But yeah, it looks like over the next year they're planning to do a lot of that stuff that I think we wanted to see.
How much do you think the game has actually improved?
I'd say it's probably not a huge amount of difference, to be honest. Like they've added more stuff. You've got more leaders, a couple of new units, and the actual skeleton of the game I don't think has really changed a hell of a lot.
I can't help but feel that they've I think Slytherin have got them under contract to keep making DLC for Gladius. I think that's what's going on. And I do wonder if they're putting, they're only a small developer. They're probably splitting their workload between, a small team. So they're doing these constant Gladius updates. That's something I want to talk to you guys about. I'll get your opinion on actually. But but then they've got ZEPHON as well. And ZEPHON, I'm not surprised to hear that they're making some changes to the way that the endgame scenario plays out, because I've talked about this quite a lot, but I don't think that ZEPHON makes any sense whatsoever if you get rid of the endgame scenario. Because if you get rid of the endgame scenario, the diplomacy is inconsistent and doesn't work very well, and therefore you might as well be playing Gladius, right? So if you take the endgame scenario out of the equation, ZEPHON's not a good game. But
actually, sorry, battle mode, you've got to stop. That's exactly how I play the game.
Yeah, but it's not good. It's what's the point? There's no point
like
in it.
I enjoy it that way.
Sure, but I mechanically it breaks the game because Gladius was balanced around everyone being at war, and it is a reskin. It's not a reskin, but it is a Gladius style game, right? It's an evolution in the same.
But you're playing a pure strategy game, and then you've then got diplomacy. When you do turn off the end game, you've then got much more of a random type game. You've got a nice clear progression through your game. One of the things I think with ZEPHON as well, they've actually added a lot more options to the way that you want to play the game. So for me, it's actually changed a lot since release. I actually really like what they've been doing. And but you can now set up the game to whatever you want to have, which for me, I happen to prefer more the Gladius sort of style approach, but with some diplomacy.
Yeah, I've been setting the I've been setting the end game event way back. You can slow down how long it takes to appear. So I've set that to reappear really late, and I've been playing it with the diplomacy. I think they have actually done quite a bit of work under the hood to improve that and make it less, I guess, schizo. So.
It was completely schizo on release, man. I thought it was. I thought it was bad.
It's a lot more readable now.
I might just be playing with outdated information now, and I need to go back to it. But my analysis of ZEPHON after playing it a fair bit was that no, this doesn't work unless you have the endgame scenario. But the endgame scenario is good. But what people were complaining about was that it's because it's the same thing every time. The game feels repetitive.
It's boring. In my opinion, it's just got to be I. That's why I love Gladius. I love the immersion of Gladius. I wish that Gladius had the mechanics of ZEPHON, But yeah, the end game for me, it becomes a role play game, not a strategy game. So yeah, it's just essentially the same ending time after time after time.
I take Gladius as I take the Warhammer iconic quote is, "In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war."
Exactly. There's only supposed to be war.
That's literally how I take it. That's literally how I take it. And it is played.
They made, like, Proxy made that first game, Pandora, and it was all right, yeah? It was all right until Isle gave them the good AI, or Zilmi, whatever you want to call him now, until he gave them that AI mod, and then the game became better, right? And Gladius was an effort to take all the stuff from Pandora that was good and strip out all the crap that didn't work, which is basically the diplomacy, yeah, and you know the some of the other stuff and the story stuff, and turn it into a more stripped down game. But Gladius is, I think, that's damn near perfect. I'll come back to this, but I don't think it needs any more content now. I think we should be done with Gladius and just move on. Personally,
yeah, I think a Gladius 2 is what we need now.
Yeah, I think they should stop banging out more DLC for that. I know it's a cash cow, but that's the only reason they're doing it. But ZEPHON, like they did the unprecedented step. Like, the best part about Gladius was there was no diplomacy. That what made that game good. Diplomacy breaks 4X games in so many ways, and it's the most exploitable, cheesy mechanic. It's always Age of Wonders 4's got this down, by the way. I'm going to give Triumphs credit that Age of Wonders 4's diplomacy is pretty good, I think, in my opinion. I don't think it's too easy to cheese. The other reason why it's really good is because that region system is intrinsically tied into the diplomacy. So there's a reason to do diplomacy that isn't just, here, I'm going to give you money to stop you from attacking me, and then until I'm ready to attack you, you know? And so, like, Age of Wonders Triumph have really thought about how diplomacy works in these kind of games. But bring it, like, the way that it worked in ZEPHON, it's just the same old diplomacy system, except it is tied into the game mechanics if you play if you do the end game scenario. And then it's really interesting because you got to do the political wrangling to get into the position where you're in a winning position at the end, especially on the higher difficulties. If you don't do that, you're going to lose because the end game scenario is difficult. And I like that. I think that's really, really good, but it is repetitive. But if you take away the end game scenario, the diplomacy is the same old broken crap that you get from every other 4X game that they'd already removed because it was bad, and then they've just put it back in. So why would you do that? I wouldn't play. I don't think ZEPHON's as good a game as Gladius because I've got no incentive to play Gladius with no diplomacy over ZEPHON with no diplomacy over Gladius, and yet ZEPHON with diplomacy is a broken mess of a game. So that's my problem with ZEPHON, and it's the reason why I never went back to it. But I am interested to check it out. I've looked at the content and it doesn't look like they're addressing any of the core issues of the game that I had with the game. And I'm not interested in more stuff for ZEPHON. I don't think more stuff's going to fix ZEPHON. I think they need to think about how to make that endgame scenario more dynamic, because that would make the game better in my opinion.
Referring to the Diplo stuff, I think they have done quite a bit of work improving it. There's been, I don't know how many updates now, but I check in every few updates and there'll be something in there about the AI, and it's a lot more readable. It's a lot more consistent. I still don't think it's completely there, but it is a lot better than it was.
Yeah, it's fundamentally it's a fundamental core issue with the game. It's not that, like, rebalancing the Diplo might make it feel a little bit better, but it still doesn't take away the idea that it doesn't need to be there. There's no point in it being there. It should just be, they've kind of shot themselves in the foot by recreating Gladius this accurately and improving on it, like Daz says, because there's elements of ZEPHON that are better than Gladius in terms of the tactical combat. And it's a real shame because I don't dislike the diplomacy, don't get me wrong. It's like, I'll play it. You can have fun kind of, trying to figure out who it is, you're going to make friends with for a while or whatever. But for me, it needs that end game scenario, because if you don't have if you've got the end game scenario and you know that this great war's coming at the end, and you've got to, figure out who your allies are, if you want to set up trying to betray one of the big factions, then you've got to really play carefully with the diplomacy. Then it's a really interesting game. And I love diplomacy systems that are intrinsically tied in with endgame scenarios, like it is in Emperor of the Fading Suns. There's another one, right? That's got the best Diplo in the genre if you play it in multiplayer, because it's all of the mechanics of the diplomacy are tied into the game in a really critical way. Master of Orion was the same. Other than that there aren't that many 4X games that have got that clever diplomacy that is actually mechanically meaningful, rather than just, I'll trade you a tech and you give me 200 gold and then then we have a ceasefire or whatever. It's just, it's just kind of, it's not that good, man. And it doesn't feel good when the player inevitably learns how to, to min-max it, and there's always optimal decisions. And I think it's one of the core problems with 4X games, particularly, that's not been addressed.
Yeah, well, at the moment, I'm actually playing a game at the moment where I've had a bit of shifting alliances going on, because I'm playing as, I think it's not the Warlord, I can't remember what his name is. It's one of the original civs that they put in there. So I've been playing as that, and my nearest neighbour that I ran into while I was clearing out neutrals is one of the new factions, the Count. So I allied with the Count straight up, because I'm like, we're right next to each other, and then we've gone clearing all the map and this sort of thing, and then I've started running into the other civs, and I've allied with the Anchorite, and then one of the other civs was the other civ. Oh, it was the was it the Unshackled AI? I think it's called. So they're allied, and I've started allying with them, but then the Unshackled AI has gotten into a war with the Count, so they're not getting along. And I'm trying to skull drag everyone into allying with each other, because you can kind of still game it a bit. If you just throw enough stuff at them, then eventually they're like, yeah, let's be friends. But then over time, depending on how their other stuff is interacting, your reputation can decrease with them anyway. So you can't just permanently like they can break your alliances and stuff. So you can't just permanently be allied with them. So anyway, I've got with these guys, so I've got my own alliance going on after I'd already allied with the Count, but because the Count is clashing with at least one of the players in this alliance, they keep telling me, hey, this isn't really working, like, you need to be friends. We want you to stop being friends with the Count. And it's gotten to a point now where I've actually had to declare war on the Count, because it's degrading all of my relations with the rest of the alliance. So you've got that, shifting alliances thing going on, which I'm kind of finding interesting. But it's still... Yeah, there's a little jank that I found in there where you'll find someone who was allied, like I think it was the chief, just as soon as they allied with someone, suddenly they're like, oh, we don't want to trade with you anymore. And I'm like, yeah, but they only just allied with you. How does that work? But yeah, I have found, with the way that things can shift depending on who you're allied with and what how like systems interacting with each other with that mechanic, that's still keeping it kind of interesting for me.
Yeah, like I remember there was an event, I think it was, where it was like, oh, do you want to infiltrate your spies into the enemy faction? And it was like, a multiple choice event, and I was like, oh, then I'll do that. That sounds dangerous, but I'll do it. And then it was like, okay, you failed and you're at war. Oh, and now you're at war with everybody. So like I went from having two allies and a couple of ceasefires into being at war with literally everybody except ZEPHON or something. And I thought to myself, now I can handle this kind of thing in a game. Like I actually quite enjoy challenges like this. But I tell you what, the general public is going to absolutely hate this, because that just feels really brutally unfair. Now, I'm pretty sure that must have either been a bug or it was, a feature that Proxy probably didn't intend. But there seemed to be a lot of stuff like that. And so when Sean said, it's got a very schizophrenic diplomacy system, that is my experience of it too. It's like really twitchy. So you can kind of like butter people up to be friends with you, and they will do it, but it's got a lot of artificial rubber banding in, so that if like, not only if you got mechanic, kind of like animosity mechanics and stuff, which is good, I like that sort of thing, where enemies will naturally dislike you and you can butter them up for a while, but eventually your relations will start trending downwards, and things can trend upwards as well. But I felt that it was just overtuned to the point where it didn't make sense as to why somebody had suddenly stopped liking you. It just felt, you really saw the gamification of it, where it was like, oh, okay, I see what the game's trying to do here. It realizes that Gladius where everybody's friends is a shit game. And that happens, like I remember I was at peace with people for about 8-10 turns. And I thought, God, this is boring. You've given me a war game where everybody's at peace. Like, that is like, why? Why would you do that? Like, imagine Panzer Corps, except it's like, oh, okay, now you've got to spend 20-30 turns at peace. Well, there's nothing else to do in this game except fight, and that's basically what Gladius is, right? You are either fighting or you're building your base to build more of a war machine. And ZEPHON's no different. Like, there's nothing else in there that that you can do. Like, the base building's not interesting, taken out of the context of the warfare, right? So if you have a system where everybody can be at peace, sitting holding hands in a campfire, handing round toasted marshmallows and singing Kumbaya, that's boring. And so the way that
it sounds like too much diplomacy.
Too much diplomacy, yeah. So it's diplomacy. So in that case, what they've done is they've rubber banded it so that you get these events and things that just suddenly throw you into war with people because they realise that this is a war game and you need to be at war with each other. But we've put an option of being at peace. So okay, what we'll do is we'll have these things in so that it will just make you at war with people, and we'll try and hide it so it's not that noticeable. Unfortunately, it's glaringly obvious when it happens. So yeah, this is what I mean. I think Zephon's a bit of a schizophrenic game, man.
Quest. I don't know, because I turned them off, because I have that bit of PTSD from Gladius, where you have a quest and like one of the enemy civs can actually kill the stuff that pops up for a quest and effectively ends your game. So I'm very careful to turn those off. I don't know. Maybe at some point, because I know it's. I'll do it once for the narrative stuff, and then I'll turn it off forever.
I think the quests originally in Gladius were literally just supposed to be a tutorial, because that's all they are, aren't they? I don't think they do anything else. Whereas in ZEPHON, they've built the gameplay partly around the quests in ZEPHON again. So it's one of those things where you feel kind of obliged to keep it on, like the end game scenario, because the rest of it makes more sense if you've got this narrative. But the narrative, I know, Daz, we've talked before, you don't really like the narrative in ZEPHON. You think it's...
No, I just turn all that shit off, and it's I've got zero interest in it.
Yeah, right. And I'm like that with Gladius as well. By the way, I wanted to... This is the question I wanted to ask you guys now I got you all together. Do you think Gladius needs any more content? Because I saw that Proxy have actually, or Slytherin have advertised yet another DLC with adding more units. And I thought to myself, I kind of feel like, shouldn't they be done with this one now? I'm not, no offense to Slytherin, like obviously it's a money spinner, so of course they're going to keep putting out more stuff, but at some point we're going to get big unit bloat in that game. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I actually think that's actually, I think you're dead on it right, because the other thing too is that I really think that they should be looking at Gladius 2 to bring in a lot of the mechanics that have come from ZEPHON, bring that in. Now, when you bring in a second version of a game, people expect all the DLC to be in there as well, pretty much. So
that's not going to happen.
But the more DLC they bring in with Gladius 1, if there is a Gladius 2 on the horizon, it's going to frustrate people if you go back to just 4 factions again. They're going to have to release with a fair bit of stuff. And if they did
they're not going to do it. They can't do that. There's not a chance.
I hope that they do, because it's been a successful game for them. And people would buy it. Like, people would buy Gladius 2.
It's got to be different, though, Daz. It's got to be so different.
It doesn't.
It's Warhammer 40,000.
Yeah.
It's Warhammer 40,000. Everybody loves Warhammer 40,000.
Yeah, it'll sell just because of the name.
But they don't need to change they just need to bring in like, not having roads is a big problem with Gladius. There's a whole lot of things in Gladius that they could make. Some of the stuff, and just add a few more mechanics in, like that ZEPHON doesn't have, but bring in the additions that ZEPHON does better than Gladius. Bring those across. I reckon that's saleable. Like, people who like Gladius would buy it in a heartbeat.
Here's the problem, though, and I've learned this from experience. Right, is that if you release a sequel, like, because Stardock had this issue with Sins 2. Sins 2 is a dramatically different game to Sins Rebellion. On the surface, it looks the same because it's got the same layout. It's got the same star map, and you fly your ships in from. It looks like the same, but everything would change. Like, literally every mechanic, from the way combat is resolved to the focus of the gameplay in tactical battles being, more about movement now and positioning, whereas before it was about unit composition. It was only about unit composition because there's no firing arcs or any of that stuff. So, if you're an idiot, it's the same game. It's like, oh, it's just the same game. But if you're not an idiot and you actually play it and realize, oh no, it's fundamentally different. They're going to have to do that with Gladius too. But like, you can't, like Daz said, the expectations now are that Gladius, you've got 18 factions or whatever it is, however many goddamn factions it's got. There's no way that you can release that game and do it justice and make it different from the first game to justify it existing, and for it to have any more than 4 or 5 factions, really. Unless they reuse graphics assets. They're not that big a company, man. They can't do it. So yeah, I mean, I'd like to see a Gladius 2 as well. I'd like to see ZEPHON more fleshed out, because I think ZEPHON's really promising. I'm actually I just started installing it actually as we were recording, and then I thought, I better not do that because it'll cut off my download rate. But
I need to play that. I need to play it now, because I think I've spoken about it before. I've literally Gladius and literally not even touched ZEPHON, and you guys talk about it so much and give it so many compliments that apart from the diplomacy, it sounds like a really interesting game to actually get some time involved.
Richard, I don't think you'd find a big problem with the diplomacy. I think it's as a critic, I'm nitpicking because it has got issues, but it's for the general end user. If you're just playing it for fun, ZEPHON's great, man. You're not gonna, if you're listening to this podcast and you're thinking, Battle Mode or whoever's making this sound like a really bad game, it's not a bad game. ZEPHON's really good. The issue is that it's in the shadow of Gladius, and Gladius was an S tier game. Yeah, that's an S tier game.
I love Games Workshop, so and Gladius is literally it's Warhammer. It's my childhood, Warhammer 40,000, and I'm down the road from the mecca of Games Workshop, so I always have a soft spot for the whole Warhammer. So you know it, Ben, as well. So I love it, and I live it. So it's like, who would not want to play a Space Marine or a Necron or whatever else? It is just a fun game.
I think we've talked about this before when we did the interview, Rich. But so Richard and I are from Derby and Nottingham, respectively, or I'm from Derby and he's from Nottingham. And they're two cities very close to each other. And Games Workshop headquarters is in Nottingham. And so, where I grew up 15 miles away, Richard was probably 2 or 3 miles away from it.
So Richard wins then, does he?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that's probably why Richard's really good at games, because he, everybody in our area kind of likes, even during the 80s and 90s when Games Workshop was really getting big, 88 onwards, really. Even kids who weren't interested in playing tabletop games would have had a few miniatures because they were so cool. There was nothing like it at that time. We didn't have BattleTech, really. That never took off over here, and that was the big thing in America. In Dungeons and Dragons, but we had Warhammer and Warhammer 40k and Warhammer Fantasy. They were the two big games, and they've always been cool. So I think Richard's dead right. If they release Gladius 2, it's going to sell, because you put Warhammer 40k on something and it's going to sell. There's certain developers have released so many crap Warhammer 40k mobile games, and there's so many bad Warhammer games, man. But I think if Proxy did another one, it's guaranteed to sell. I just can't see what they're going to do, because that problem that Daz has come up with. It's like there's going to be the expectations that it's got to have a lot of factions now, because otherwise people bitch, and they don't realise that actually every one of these factions is a lot of work. There's a lot of work goes into making a race pack for Gladius. I know there's so much art assets that have got to be made for a start, and that's not trivial work. So yeah, it's an interesting dilemma that Proxy are in with that one, I think.
I think also Slytherin's the one that would have the rights to Gladius, like the Warhammer franchise, and I think that, and I don't know this, but I'm assuming that probably their focus for Warhammer is actually Battle Sector, and Battle Sector is getting better and better and better as well. That's actually has become what I thought was pretty much an average game when it launched into a really, really good game now, and I think that's probably where their focus is.
I just can't get it. I can't get into that one. It was just so bad on release. I just is it better now? Oh, mind you, it's got good reviews, but I don't think it's sold anywhere near as Gladius, like Gladius.
No, but I think that's where they want to put their focus. So that's I think that's where Slytherin would be looking at for Warhammer 40,000. That's where I would imagine that they would be. Whenever they release something for Gladius, they tend to release something at the same time for Battle Sector.
Yeah, so I'm looking at sales now. Looks like, but at least judging by the reviews, it looks like Battle Sector had about half of. It's not been out anywhere near as long as Gladius, so that's good. Battle Sector looks like it's sold well. But how many people are playing it? That's what I'd want to know.
Yeah, the AI is not very good. The map generation is really bad still. So there's still got a lot of work to get it up to a good state.
It's a totally different game as well. It's a completely
it is. Yeah.
Gladius is almost like a 4X. It's kind of
we might have missed RuneQuest, out of the equation here, because of course talk about Battle Sector, and I think the same devs are releasing the fantasy version. I don't know when this podcast is coming out, but they're releasing the fantasy version very soon.
Okay.
Which is this week, which is just as good. And like I said, I enjoy Battle Sector, and literally I've done a couple of mega streams of that, and
I enjoy it.
And to be honest with you, if you play the multiplayer is very I probably digress with Broken Arrow, that the multiplayer is very competitive, and the same thing with Battle Sector. But I think this is the general consensus of Warhammer 40,000. If I was to play what edition we're on, 10th, 11th, it's very much more competitive, and if you feel the game, that game to me is a competitive game.
Yeah.
Like I've played a couple of like Z-Dog and I played a couple of randoms online, and that game is mega competitive. And I'm a casual / intermediate gamer, and even then they're a level above that. And I think that's just the progression evolution of the tabletop war game as we go.
Yeah, I mean, Slytherin very much were focused on war games, right, and competitive games. So I'm not surprised to hear that I mean, Gladius is quite competitive though. There's quite a serious multiplayer community for that, I think. I don't know if it would be as big as Battle Sector. The difference being, of course, is that a game of Battle Sector is over in half an hour, whereas Gladius is you're sort of pushing 4 or 5 hours minimum. Well,
Battle Sector is very serious, I think, more so than Gladius, because I remember even before the game came out, they had a multiplayer scene going on. And like Battle Sector is not something.
Yeah. It's more like chess.
Yeah. And Battle Sector is not something I've played since I think the Sisters of Battle. Oh wait, no, it was Khorne. Since Khorne came out, so I know they handed over the reins from Black Lab. I actually want to see what Black Lab are going to do next, because they're pretty good. But so I haven't played it since then. I don't know what they've really done with it, but I do remember. Like I was in so I was in it. I was having a look at Battle Sectors before it even launched, and even then they were running like unofficial tournaments and things like that. So there's a very serious multiplayer base behind it.
Actually, can I switch tack a little bit? I just wanted to ask: have any of you guys played Project Thea?
I was in the closed beta for a bit, or like when they started opening it up, and I took one look at it and I saw the artwork, and I was just like, God, what the hell has happened to Muha, man? They used to know how to make really. They used to make beautiful characters, beautiful graphics.
Yeah.
And I was like, God, these characters are ugly as sin. And I know it's supposed to be a post-apocalyptic game, but it's like everything was hit with the ugly stick. And it was so bad it stopped me playing.
Yeah, I'm the same. I actually stopped. I couldn't get into the immersion. I didn't like the lore. I didn't like anything about it. And initially, because I was in early as well. But I thought I'd just ask the question because... like Muha Games does some really good work, and so
they do.
And I just could not get into the game, but I've played it a bit this week, and it's got just some good mechanics in it. Like it looks terrible, but it actually plays really quite interestingly, much more than I really anticipated. I just wondered if you guys because I'm struggling with it because of the graphics. The graphics just kill me.
I can't. I do. They're so like Muha were. I mean, if you play Thea's great, man. The graphics in that are fantastic. The character design, they know how to do they know how to make stuff look beautiful. There's a little bit of sexy in there, but it's not overdone. Like Thea games were beautiful, really, really beautiful, beautifully made games.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a really strange decision because it's not even as if the characters actually have to be animated either. Like they're just literally, it's a card-driven game, so you don't even need to animate the characters. So I'm not sure why they went in that direction. It blows my mind.
And it's a role-playing game, and so even if it is a tactics game or a strategy game, it's got a heavy role-playing element to it. And unfortunately, if you can't get your players invested in the game because they are turned off from the visuals or they're turned off from the aesthetic, you're finished. Yeah, you're not going to do you.
And Richard or Sean, have you played it at all?
No,
I've not even heard of it. To be honest with you, I'd like to find out now. Could I ask a question? If you guys could tell me one game of 2025 that you would suggest to people who listen to this, what would it be?
As in the best game ever made? Oh, that's Age of Wonders 4.
just 2025. Oh, yeah, I know that.
Oh God,
I should have asked that question. Like, what you played recently, like, would be the most suggested game. Like, please try this out.
Door Kickers 2.
Blown away, or it will change your opinion.
Door Kickers 2.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a good one.
I like Door Kickers.
That's great.
It's good. That's a good
game.
It is
a good game. Yeah.
Mine is Fertile Crescent. Like, literally, the game I'd say if you're into that kind of.
Old school
Command and Conquer style.
Old school RTS, yeah.
I think mine, the biggest surprise I've had in recent times is Elemental Reforged. And even though it's a bit buggy because it's it is basically in early access, I just when I'm playing it, I can't stop.
I'm really pleased that you like that, Daz, because it's one of those games. It was a sleeper hit, even though it was buggy and a bit broken. It was one of those games when I was on a Fantasy 4X binge, and I was trying to look through all of the Fantasy 4X games on Steam to figure out which was the best one, I came across Fallen Enchantress Legendary Heroes, and it came so well recommended by people who did play it, and had good reviews. It is a great game, but it's so different to Age of Wonders, and I get annoyed when I see, I do a live stream playing it, and people will be like, so how is this going to compete with Age of Wonders? Because Age of Wonders is just a better game and it's like, no, it's completely different. Like
it's a completely different game. The focus is different. The pacing is different. The pacing is better in Elemental than Age of Wonders, and I hate saying that.
Yeah, it is better paced than Age of Wonders. But here's the thing, it's a completely different game. It's like much more close to the classic Master of Magic style, where it's about empire building and you're very much, focused on your city management, and it's a sandbox game. It's a real sandbox game, whereas Age of Wonders is very much... Age of Wonders 4 is a sandbox game as well, actually, now. It's tight. It's much tighter, and there's much more pressure, I'd say, from the AI.
The difference is Age of Wonders 4 is a tactical game with a strategic layer around it, which they both work well. Elemental Reforged is a strategic game with a simple tactical system, and it's and they don't live in the same universes. They're completely different games.
Exactly. So this is the thing. Like I'm advocating now for people to stop using genres for kind of especially when they're developing games. Don't go, I'm going to make a Fantasy 4X, or I'm going to make a 4X in general. Try to find what's good about those games, those genres, and then make a new game that still scratches the same itch. And the reason is because, one, everybody's got a different idea of what a Fantasy 4X is. Like when people say, oh, there's no point in getting Elemental because I've got Age of Wonders and it's a better, it's just a better game, it's a newer game. The balance of gameplay in Elemental is completely different to Age of Wonders, isn't it? Like in Age of Wonders, you're spending most of your time in tactical combat, and the strategic map stuff is over quicker. Now, Age of Wonders 4 really went to town with the complexity of the strategic element, but it didn't make it over complex. It's actually really nice.
I think you're actually wrong there, Ben. I actually think Age of Wonders, you're more about building up your stacks, and you're focusing on acquiring particular balances of units in Age of Wonders 4. In Elemental, you're more focused on getting research so that you can actually then build a stack of units that you want to have designed. So, and I think, and so the tactical side, yes, they are very, very different. But I think that the focus for Age of Wonders is much more about acquiring a balance in the stacks that will then work in tactical combat, whereas Elemental's much simpler than that. I think it's much more about, I'm going to research getting swords, these special swords, so I can then build a very strong sort of group, or maybe building mages so I can actually counter something that's going to be happening. So it's for me feels to be probably the biggest difference between them, like just the overall approach to the way that you then sort of progress through the game.
Yeah, right. I see. Yeah, because while both games have this kind of RPG system where units level up, I think Elemental is more kind of sandbox based in that you can actually design your own troops, right? You can even down to the fact that you can, make all of your rank and file troops. You can customize how they look, right? You can give them different clothes and different hairstyles and all stuff. It's really crazy in that respect. Whereas Age of Wonders is more about, you got a set units, and then you're kind of picking your tomes.
No, you're wrong there again, Ben. God, I can't believe
they are set units
today.
You can't customize you cannot customize units in Age of Wonders.
You customize them through magic.
Yeah, but that's not customization. That's just adding a magic buff.
It's not. It's different customization, but it's still customization.
No. It's so they're two totally different systems. One is you've got set units that you buff with magic, and they level up. And some of them, like the heroes, they've got skill trees and stuff. But in Elemental, everything is potentially a hero, right? So even your pioneers, you can potentially level those guys up, give them magic items.
I've never heard such a nerdy argument.
No, this is not a nerd. This is full blown war. Yeah,
this is warfare now. Yeah.
The thing is with Age of Wonders 4 is you do have a lot of choice. You choose which tomes you research, and then you choose what buffs you put on your units. And it's not as defined as putting mods on like it was with Planetfall, which I think most people still think that was a better system. But where you could design your units up the way that you're discussing them, which was what Elemental does. So I wish it did have that, but it doesn't. But it still has customization, and you still have progression. So I think they both have it, but just in different ways. And I think that the Elemental way is much more hands-on for the unit, whereas the Age of Wonders 4 customization is more global and more sort of across the board. So it's more to do with the class of units that you're actually dealing with. So I prefer. So I think that I don't think one's got it and the other one doesn't. I think they just do it in different ways.
Oh no, I wasn't saying one was better than the other, because I don't actually think one is better than the other necessarily. I think Age of Wonders is a tighter game actually.
How do you backpedal so quickly, Ben?
No, because I think you misunderstood me. I'm just saying that you can't physically, customize your units in Age of Wonders. Like, you can't get a spearman and then make it a mace man. Yeah, you can't do that in Age of Wonders. It's just physically not possible. Whereas in Elemental, you can do that. You can get a spearman and give it a magic mace, and then it will become a maceman unit. And that's kind of what I meant.
It's much more granular. Elemental is much more granular.
And it was designed to be like that. But I mean, I'm excited to see what's coming with that next. And I don't know, by the way. Like, this is one of those games where it's in development all the time. And for those of you, you guys won't know unless you watch Stardoc's YouTube channel, but Daz and some other content creators were invited over to Stardock headquarters over in Plymouth, Michigan, earlier this year. And I actually went out there, and me and Daz met each other for the first time, and he met the missus and that. So we had a really good time, didn't we, Daz? But Daz actually got to play some games in advance as well. One of which we're not allowed to talk about because it's completely secret. But then he plays Sins and Elemental, and then also Ashes 2. Like, I didn't think Daz was going to enjoy that, because he's not really a RTS, like a non-active pause RTS guy necessarily. And yet he seemed to really enjoy it, and I was really pleased to see that, because I think Ashes, even Ashes as a singularity, the original, it's a little bit more slow pace. It's not like StarCraft, right? You don't have to be rushing around everywhere. Units move quite slowly, and so it's more about the strategic planning and tactical execution. There is a little bit of micro at the higher levels, I think, but you don't need to play it like that in order to have fun. How did you find it, Daz?
Yeah, it was. I just thought the systems and the mechanics that they actually had to streamline it was brilliant. And then I got smashed like in the multiplayer game that I was playing. So
I did as well.
But that was Pravis, another YouTuber who's absolutely crushed me. But it was sort of funny because I went with a bit of a Zerg rush type strategy, and I was just pumping out the same units over and over and over. And what he did was he actually noticed, to counter that type of unit, I just got to build this type of unit. And so he changed his strategy, and I didn't change mine. And so he ended up wiping me out completely and then just dominating. And it was really, I loved seeing that, because it meant that the strategy was still the king. But the management of it was really, really so well done. Like, it was such a polished experience in terms of it not being overwhelming, and I always worry about those sort of games being overwhelming just because I'm so damn old. Isn't that right, Ben?
Yeah, something like that, Daz, yeah. I mean, look, I'm no spring chicken myself. Suffice to say that it's got some really cool mechanics that make it easy to play. It's not a simple game in the sense that, it's not a dumbed down game, but it is it's easier to play than other classic RTS games, but it doesn't lose any of the sort of tactical nuance that you get with those games that makes them fun. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to Ashes 2 coming out as well. I just worked on a trailer that we've just released with a really talented guy at Stardock, man, who does all the trailers and stuff, and it's come out really well. So I was really proud of that. So I'm looking forward to jumping on YouTube and seeing how well that trailer's done, man. But I think Ashes, it's got all of the hallmarks of a successful game. Now, I'm going to say that, with caution, but it's like Lucid says, it sells the fantasy because you've got these massive battles. It's absolutely epic scale. It's like Supreme Commander levels, except it's like that. It's crazy. And then, it's still easy to play. So it's got this, it looks fantastic when it's going, and it's got really, really good graphics.
That was my biggest fear of actually going. I was so not wanting to play that game because I really didn't like the first version, because it was just Supreme Commander on steroids. And I didn't like Supreme Commander because it was just a micromanagement hell. And so seeing what they did to make the micromanagement manageable with version 2, I just thought, wow, this is really special.
Yeah, it is. And I think it's going to open up the game to a lot of people who wouldn't normally enjoy that kind of thing. I think that the challenge will probably, is it going to attract in RTS hardcore players? That'll be an interesting one. But yeah, like Richard and Sean, I know you both like your RTS games in smaller doses, but yeah, check out Ashes 2 when it comes out. I think it's well worth a look. If you like big robots shooting each other, and on, lots and lots of them, like hundreds and hundreds and thousands of them, all fighting, it is really damn cool, and it's it's going to be a good one, I reckon.
To put it into perspective, like everyone who went there, like all the YouTubers who actually went to and played these games, everyone thought that was the best of all the games, and we got to play Elemental before it came out and stuff like that as well. And I can't stop playing Elemental, so and everyone just loved the experience of Ashes. It was just such a polished game.
I did play the first one,
man,
and quite enjoyed it. So pretty keen on too.
Ashes of the Benchmark, as they called it. It's funny because apparently Ashes of the Singularity, it was so difficult. Well, it wasn't difficult, but it had such high performance specifications that, people were using it as a benchmark. They were like, if your computer can run Ashes of the Singularity, it's a good computer. It became known for it, and it actually sold a lot of copies of Ashes of the Singularity.
I was just thinking with Ashes 1, it was pretty funny. They had some pretty groundbreaking tech stuff that came out further down the track with that. Like when they brought out, I think it was when they brought out DX12, I remember people doing all these crazy benchmarks where they would run, it was an AMD Vega GPU alongside an NVIDIA, I think it was a 1080 Ti or something, and they were running it with all the extra VRAM and stuff, and there was some new tech that came out with the Vega one, and you could run them together, and they were getting that to get extra performance out of the Ashes of the benchmarks. Like, Ashes was being used basically to benchmark like these crazy Frankenstein combinations of graphics cards and stuff.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Like, it is interesting that they actually managed to monetize that and make it, go, hey, buy this game if you want to use some benchmark computer, to benchmark your computer. Hey guys, I reckon we should start wrapping up soon, man, because I'm thinking about my poor editor.
Yeah, I'm just looking through things that I'm keen on. I was thinking, you guys have played Menace, hey?
No, I've not played it yet. What's it like?
That is really good.
That's probably my biggest one.
It's gotten better and better and better. That's actually, you're right, that's probably got to be right up there with the most anticipated games of 2026.
Is it that good, eh?
Yeah, it's very good.
What about Mars Tactics, Daz? Are you excited about that one?
Yeah, I don't know the date for that one, but I've been wanting to, like, ever since they first announced it, like a few years ago, I've really been excited about it. It's sort of funny because when I was excited about it, no one else was, and so I would put up videos about it and get no views. But now when I look at it, the actual wish list from my Steam friends and that is actually now really high for that game. Yeah. So I don't know what's happened because it's still the same game under the hood. I'm really looking forward to that. I don't know when the date is for that.
I'm just looking at Menace now. This looks pretty cool, actually. So is it like XCOM kind of game?
No, it sort of is. It's actually the problem with Menace, and I don't know how they're going to fix it, is that you've got preset characters that you have to use, and there's only a few of them, and then you actually put a squad together with those characters. So the immersion for the characters is low. It's actually not very good. Whereas you got XCOM or the Xenonauts 2, for example. Xenonauts 2 for me is still the better game in terms of roleplay and in terms of immersion. But Menace is going to be very, very good. So unless they can hopefully that they can fix that.
Yeah, that's going to be an issue with the pre-made characters because they've got all their own voice lines, and I've seen some complaints about it. That's probably the one real issue I have with it is it's kind of they've got the cheesy 80s VO kind of thing, which is fun for about 5 seconds, and then it's like, okay, I'm over it.
Is it like Jagged Alliance in that respect? Then is it more like that?
A little.
Where, you've got preset characters.
It's sort of Jagged Alliance has individual characters, and that's fine. And you've got a lot of them in the game, so you can get a squad together. In this case, you have preset like 6 units. They're like the lieutenants of squads, and then you allocate just members to the squads. They're just numbers, and so they then give you your firepower, the actual squads, but you just still got these same base level units that are in charge of these squads. And it's just not quite enough. I don't know. I wish they had done something different with that.
It's like what was that JRPG? Shit, I can't remember what it was called now. You played it, Daz. Remember that one where you have all the you put the units?
Brigandine.
No, not that one. There's another one. It was like a Fire Emblem kind of thing.
Yes, Brigandine.
No, there was a different one.
Yeah, Brigandine.
I played a lot of it and I got the shits because I remember somehow my save got corrupted on my Steam Deck. It wasn't Brigandine. I haven't played it.
Is it like Symphony of War or something?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So it was like that where you can have you put your units with your squad leaders, and then that's where you get a lot of your firepower. Yeah, similar sort of system.
That was actually you got more. You did get more immersion than with Menace. Menace just feels like there's such a disconnect with your leaders. Like it's just there's no immersion there.
Yeah, they're
at
just
all.
sort of there, like, and they've got the voice lines, but the voice lines, there's no. It doesn't feel like there's any real depth. It's just like you've got your. It's just sort of like they've just put a voice in for you almost like your squad. Your squad has a voice, and it's sort of like unit barks, and that's about it.
It's interesting to see. This is the developer of Battle Brothers. It's Overhyped Studios. That's interesting because Battle Brothers was very much a immersive kind of RPG sandbox kind of thing.
I love that game. That game was really good. It's still
it's a
good.
great game. Yeah, it's fantastic.
The thing with Battle Brothers is that they marketed Menace with Battle Brothers as Battle Brothers in space, and it is not Battle Brothers. No. They should not have associated it with the two games. They're completely different. Like Menace is a great game, but not at all. It's not a Battle Brothers in space.
Anyway, we probably should start wrapping up, guys. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been good to get everyone together again, and it's a shame Lucid wasn't here, but like he's away this time. But we'll have Lucid back at some point to get his graphs on.
Yeah, well, that was great. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Daz. It's great to have you back, man. And we'll do a Christmas episode as well if you guys are around over the Christmas period, and we'll get you guys on to talk about. We will then go through most anticipated games and games of the year and that kind of thing. But thanks, Daz and Richard, and thanks again to Sean, man. You were a little bit quiet as always, Daz, Sean. But sorry, we're probably just waffling on about stuff that you're just not interested in again.
I was messaging Richard, and I'm like, oh fuck, they're talking about Age of Wonders again.
Yeah. We need a code word. Like we need a code word. Like we'd shout banana, banana, banana.
All right, guys. Well, thanks a lot, and we'll catch you at Christmas. Take care. Nice one. Okay, well, let's finish.